Good evening, Namaste. As always, let's start with 3 Oms. Let's take a deep breath. Breathe in. Breathe in. Once again, Namaste, and thank you all once again for taking time on a busy weekday, and in spite of the rain, you braved the rain and the traffic, and you're all here for another, what I call a satsang. My idea of a satsang is when we get together and explore truth. Sat, sang, and the sangam that we get together is to understand, explore, and share ideas of the ultimate truth. Today's topic is Kundalini Yoga, Ascension of Consciousness. The reason why I wanted to touch upon this topic is because it is the very heart or very core of the yoga practice. Whether you talk of Bhakti Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga, the very fact yoga is mentioned, that there is the word Kundalini always comes to mind. And we can actually help open up the avenues and the paths through which our consciousness will go back once again and be in touch with the Supreme. And that ascension of consciousness is what we understand as Kundalini. And again, the word yoga is how do we understand Kundalini. The other reason why I wanted to touch upon Kundalini is because ability somehow as popularly is conceived as some serpent power hidden somewhere deep down us body, and then there is something extremely mystical about it. While there is a lot of yogic knowledge that is required, and we're going to explore that to the extent possible in this 1 hour. To whatever extent I can, I will share the knowledge without getting into too many details. We won't be discussing too many methods. As much as each one of you. I am not a teacher. I don't take this mic and assume that I know better than you. Certainly not. I always say that I'm simply a yogi in the making, and I always will be for eternity, because I think and I believe the soul and the spirit within us is infinite, and therefore the more you understand, the more there is to understand. And you're always in the making, always expanding, always learning from each other. As I speak, I learn. As you listen, you learn. As I listen to your questions, I learn. And so it is with that humility and with that eagerness, with whatever little I've experienced, whatever little I've learned, it is only out of eagerness and a passion to share that I am here in front of you. And it is with that attitude that I am offering my thoughts to all of you. And also, I know, being in a civilization that has survived thousands of years, there are so many schools of thought surrounding this Vedas and the Vedanta and consciousness, all emerging from one fundamental body of knowledge. And it has taken so many directions, so many schools, so many shakas. I respect each one of them. So if somebody is doing pujas and rituals at home, there is no way I'm going to say that is not good. All I'm merely presenting is there is also this available. There is also this available. And I'm offering you all food for thought rather than offering critical comments. There is no such thing as a wrong path in spirituality. Everything is, you're done with an attitude to seek. And that starts with baby steps, whatever those baby steps may be. In yoga, when you're unable to touch your toes, you use straps and you use blocks and you use bolsters, and you slowly learn flexibility. But from day one, you're already in the path of yoga. But because you're using a strap and a block doesn't mean you're anywhere less advanced than somebody else who can touch your toes. Yes, from a point of view of flexibility, A is more advanced than B, because A can touch her toes while B is still struggling to touch her toes. But that's only a very limited flexibility point of view. What goes on inside can be a whole different scenario. I mentioned this yesterday, and I say this because I'm very aware of I'm getting to know more of Trinidad. I'm getting to know people and the culture and the practices of Trinidad, as it is in India. There is a lot of Puranic literature. There's a lot of beliefs, systems, which I don't mean to criticize at all. I come from a family of very orthodox rituals and orthodox pujas. And while I would tend to judge, and I shared the story yesterday, while I would tend to judge, Baba would correct me. He said, that is their way of dealing with God. There's no way you can criticize somebody else. That is their way. And that's why even in the Gita, Krishna said, you offer a leaf, you offer a fruit, patram pushpam phalam toyam. Offer a leaf, offer a fruit, offer whatever you want and I'll accept. In the sense that when you are reaching out to the divine in you, whatever you do is incidental. Whether you're doing yoga, whether you're sitting in a lotus pose, or whether you're sitting in front of a murti and offering some mantras which you have no idea what you're saying, but in your heart you're saying, I just want to please you. So all the three are opening their mind to something within. So it really doesn't matter. What I'm merely offering is the yogic approach. I'm offering the Vedas and what Vedas really stood for. So we expand the scope of our knowledge. So when you're doing something, you will know the background behind which you're doing. And know that this is not the be-all and end-all. There is so much more to learn. And when you go there, somebody else will offer you a different perspective. Then you'll say, oh my God, there is more to learn. And that learning never ends. That learning never ceases. So it is with this little disclaimer that I really want to offer these thoughts in a very, in an attitude that we are learning together, and in an attitude we are sharing this knowledge. So it helps us progress in our own search for that ultimate truth. As I mentioned yesterday, we are human beings. We have reached a stage of evolution. And now comes a civilization which lived thousands of years ago, who have an answer to what's next. What's next? Now that you're born as a human being, now that you've come into this earth as a human being, what is next? You see, as animals, we evolved unconsciously. There's unconscious evolution from the single-celled organism. It evolves. Now an ape, if we evolved from an ape, assume that is accepted. We evolved from an ape. The ape did not decide, I'm going to struggle and be like that human being there. Look at him driving a car. I want to do that someday. So I'm going to evolve. The ape doesn't think like that. There is unconscious evolution from the amoeba to where we are today. But having come into the human being, we are given a consciousness, a conscious mind, which means now the ball is in our court to take the next step consciously. In yoga, looks at it this way. Why only us? Why wasn't an animal given that? It is only because from a yogic point of view, again, these are all yogic perspectives. From a yogic perspective, we are the only ones who has a spinal cord that is upright. In all of creation, we are the only ones who have the spinal cord upright. We are natural when the spinal cord is upright. When you walk like this with a drooped shoulder, you don't feel natural. You straighten up, you feel natural. And because the spinal cord is upright, there is an energy that can be aroused, the mind that can be aroused to higher levels, higher dimensions of reality. That was explored, experienced, and recorded by ancient seers, sages, and yogis. And that is the knowledge that is passed down. And in order to that to happen, they said yoga is a path to achieve that. And that is what we're going to explore in today's lecture, very briefly. So there is this famous story of I said sadhu, but actually it's a beggar. I first thought I'll make the story with a sadhu, then I thought, all right, I won't rub some shoulders. So that's a story of a beggar under the tree. It's a typo there. There is a beggar who sits under the tree, and all he does entire life is begging for alms. He's begging for food, please. And somebody gives him something, he goes, grabs some meal, and then next meal he's not sure if he'll get it or not. So he continues begging, please, give me some food to eat. And he spends his whole life begging for food and water. And he lives on alms. And after many years in this village, after begging, he dies one day. And then the villagers feel sorry for him, and they said, oh my gosh, he's been there forever. And so why not let's bury him right under the tree where he sat all these years. And so they got their spades out and they dug the tree. And lo and behold, right under the tree was a treasure chest of gold coins. So the beggar sat his entire life sitting on a treasure chest, unaware that he could have changed his destiny, if you will. But he was unaware that right below him, right beneath him, there was this treasure chest that could fulfill his every dream, provide his meal, every meal of the day. And he led his life begging for alms. That's kind of a familiar story in our case as well. In yoga, it is believed, and today whatever I am presenting has to go into the realm of belief for those of us who have not experienced what I am saying. So you have to bear with me. Because when we talk of this energy, this treasure chest that is within us, we're going to explore how and why. And after a point, the only way you can deal with it is open your mind and say, all right, let me simply listen with an open mind, rather than close my mind and say, no, this can't happen, this can't be true. Once you close your mind, there is no way you can absorb that knowledge. But you just open your mind, listen, and then find out if there's really any scope for you in your practice to experience what was presented today. Kundalini is like that. It's an obscure phenomenon. It is about the ascension of consciousness, but consciousness itself is a matter of belief, because scientists say consciousness is a product of the brain. The Eastern philosophy, especially Indian Vedantists, say brain is a small fraction of the consciousness. So consciousness precedes everything. And that's how in Sankhya you start with Purusha, who's pure awareness, pure consciousness. And then everything happens from there on. So open your mind and listen to this, because in yoga we believe that there is a treasure chest, a treasure trove of tremendous energy, potential, and wisdom. When I say energy, you might feel it's just one of those high experiences you're going to get. It's a lot more than that. It's tremendous wisdom, the wisdom by which you'll know everything else. That was the secret when Vedanta tells us, know that by which everything else is known. Know that by which everything else is known. They're giving you a shortcut. They're not saying learn geography, learn physics, learn math, and they're not giving a laundry list of items and subjects to learn and talents to master. They're saying know one thing by which everything else is known. What is that? Know thyself. So the path to knowing thyself in yoga is digging within, going within, and searching for that treasure trove, that inner core. So now the question, what is this inner core we are talking about? And where the heck it is hiding? I mean, if I cut open my body right now, you're not going to see anything. You're just going to see physical body. And that's what the scientists are bewildered. They're saying, where do you get all these ideas from? We don't see it anywhere here. We don't see it. We cut open the body. We don't see it. And so, where is it? What is it, and where is it hiding within? But the good news here is it is within. And before I go there, let me tell you an analogy of why do we have to even know this? Some of you might say, happy. They pulled me out of the lecture, I struggled in the traffic, and I'm sitting here, and I'm wondering, really, do I really need this? I'm happy with my life the way it's going on. I'm watching my TV shows, and I'm having good food, I'm well placed in life, and life is going good. Why do I need that? Well, this is why we need, and I can only explain it in form of an analogy. Let me quickly put this in context. There is, let's say one afternoon, I'm talking to the guys here, you're settled down because you're having an afternoon off from work, you just kept your cold beer next to you, you're saying, all right, I'm going to settle down and watch my football game or cricket, whatever it is you do in the afternoons, and you're just settling down and your wife comes and says, hello, excuse me, honey, you have to clean the attic today, we have to put all the Christmas decorations away, or the Diwali decorations, whatever you want to put it away in the attic. And you're like, oh my gosh, no, I want to watch this game, then I want to just go and smell the new car smell that I got in my garage. I have my Jaguar part. It's a man thing. You just sit in the new car and take a deep breath and you're like, wow, I just wish it stays like this all the time. So I'm going to go there and be with my car for a little bit. Don't disturb me. But then wives, right? They don't give up. So they say, no, you have to do this. And so you're grumbling, and then you put the ladder, go to the attic, put it up again, and you're saying, all right, let me go check out whatever is going on. And you go up the attic, and you're setting things, clearing things away to put things, just reorganize stuff. And then you come across a small box. You wonder what that box is. You open that box. Within that, there's another little box. You open it. And then inside that box, you find a diamond. Now, this is where all the ladies go like this. You find a diamond. And now you close the box. You're coming back down the ladder. You spent about 10 minutes there before you discovered this. And you're coming back the ladder. So let's pause here for a moment and think, what was the mood when this man went up the ladder? He was grumbling and he was like, oh my gosh, this thing just happens to me all the time. I'd not given my own free time. And so he's now up the ladder. He found this fantastic piece of diamond. And you think he's going to come back grumbling, saying, oh my God, what did I find? Just one diamond? I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. No, he's going to be whistling a tune. He's going to be, wow, this is my lucky day. What is this? And where was this hidden? And while he's coming down, his wife here is freaking out because she has some bad things to tell him. Because the old neighbor who was backing out his car rammed into his brand new BMW or Jaguar which was parked in the driveway. She says, oh my God, my husband is going to freak out. Men don't like a scratch on their car. They don't care if their wife's makeup gets ruffled. They don't care, but the car has to be safe. And so this guy, the old man, came and hit the car, and she doesn't know what to tell him. He's going to freak out. And so she waits for him to come, and she says, please listen calmly. The poor old man, he didn't see where he was going. He kind of slightly bumped into our new car. Normally, what would have happened to you? The man would have jumped out of his skin and said, what? I told you this guy, we got to move away from this guy and all that. But today he's saying, it's all right, honey, it's okay. It's just a car. It's just a car. It's okay. It's a poor old man. That's fine. And he goes into his living room. There's a voicemail blinking on his phone, and he picks it up, and there's a manager leaving him a message saying, Mr. So-and-so, you have been a great employee, but we were doing this reorg recently, and I'm sorry we had to lay you off, but you're a great employee. Let me know, and I'll give you a really good recommendation for your next job. Now, normally, if this happened to you one after the other, you would have been like, what is going on with me today? I lost my car, I lost my job in quick succession, and you would have lost your cool, your balance, and you would have said, let's go to a temple or do something and figure out, make peace with some elements. Something is going haywire. But what will happen to this man in particular? He is going to call back the manager and he says, Mr. So-and-so, you have been a great boss, and thank you so much for letting me know. You know, this is life. It's ups and downs. So thank you so much. I worked for your company and slogged for the last day. Go in a day. Ah, that's fine. And he laughs it off. He laughs it off. Why would the same circumstance that could upset you now doesn't upset you? Why would an accident like losing a job would have completely caused an imbalance in you and made you panic? Why is that not causing panic anymore? Why didn't that same incident has not changed, but his way of taking it has completely changed? Why? Because he knew something. What is that he knew? He knew that there was a diamond in the attic. He knew there was a diamond in the attic. That knowing alone changed his perspective to life. He was able to take all the blows of life because he knows, aha, I don't care, I have a diamond in the attic. Now, did he invest the diamond? Did he sell it? Did he make the millions out of it? No, nothing. He just knew. That is the power of knowing. If you just know, you don't have to wear a saffron robe and go out and preach. You don't have to become the enlightened Buddha. You don't have to become a Jesus or a Shankara. You don't have to do anything. You just have to know. That knowing will change your attitude to life, will change your perspectives to how you take things. Because you know that there's something within you that will provide you forever, that is unending in its capacity to give. That knowing is what we want. And that is why you are here. That is why I am here. And that is why we are seeking. We are seeking to know. Not to believe, but to know. And that is what it is all about. So, what is this? Where is this? In order to understand this, we got to understand this another concept that yoga teaches us, the Vedanta teaches us, that you are not just this, but you have sheets that's covering your inner core. Because if you want to go inner core, and everybody says it's within you, and you say, where is it within me? It's not in my body. They say, no, it's not just your body. There are sheets that is covering this inner core. It's like those boxes he kept opening, and he found finally the diamond inside. There are one after the other. There are sheets, and they are called the Pancha Koshas. Pancha is 5. Pancha Koshas are the 5 sheets that is covering something deep inside. Your innermost core is covered by the 5 sheets. Okay? And I just found this picture. I found it very interesting because these are the 5 sheets. Here it just shows, in this picture, this is an artistic, this thing I got from Google. It just shows the head, but consider your entire, everything about you, what you know about you, is in these 5 sheets, each one getting more subtler than the other. And once you uncover each sheet and you go within, there is this diamond waiting to be tapped in. You see, belief alone is good, but it's not enough. Some of us spend our entire life just in this realm of belief. We carry our belief. Vedanta says that is not enough. That is why from rituals and worshipping and pujas, we need to say, all right, how do I make this a real knowing? Because that will change everything. It's very different when you know, and it's very different when you believe. Belief is good. It has tremendous power. But knowing is completely different. That was the difference between all the other monkeys and Hanuman in the story of Ramayana. Hanuman knew who Rama was. That knowledge made him jump an ocean without even knowing where the land was on the other side. That was a leap of faith, literally a leap of faith that he took. Right? The story goes to prove that it doesn't matter who you are. It could be a monkey, but it could be, you could take a monkey and place him in the place of God simply because of that knowing. There was a knowing in him. So this is not, it starts with belief. In yoga, they say, this is what it is, but let's start with touching your toes. So that is not about belief. But when you start uncovering these sheets, you become more and more aware of what is these sheets inside. So this is purely, that's why it's a lecture. It's not something we're going to go home with knowing. Hopefully we do, but it's just going to be a matter of throwing it out there so you can open your mind to believing maybe there is something in this. The first kosha, or the first sheet, the most gross form, the outer covering, we all know this. That's the annamaya. Annamaya. Anna is food, that which is sustained by food. What is sustained by food? Water is body. So body, the physical sheet, is the first and the foremost outer covering. Now, what do we do in yoga? How do we relate to this outer covering? Well, this is where all our practices of Hatha Yoga comes into play. When you do Hatha Yoga, yogasanas, when you're tuning in and channeling the energies of your body, strengthening your nervous system, for what, and we'll come across it a little later down as we discuss this. You are doing yogasanas, which we all are very familiar with. There are hundreds and hundreds of yogasanas. Some of the scriptures say there are 84 lakh or 8.4 million yogasanas out there. As many species are there in the world, that many asanas are there. Then you have kriyas. Yogic kriyas are very few, but very powerful, and you have to learn it from a learned guru or a teacher or a school that teaches you. Yogic kriyas are cleansing methods. This is not the kriya yoga that Paramahamsa Yogananda talked about. This is from a Hatha Yoga point of view. Kriyas are ones that cleanse you. So you have the Neti Kriya. Neti Kriya, you probably heard Neti, so I'll start with the most popular one. And I'll just mention a few of them. Neti Kriya is where you pour water. There are different kinds of Neti. Jala Neti. Jala Neti is water, cleansing the nostrils to the water. So you take a Neti pot and you tilt your head and you pour warm water with salt, rock salt in it. You pour warm water in it, one nostril, and it comes out from the other nostril. Well, of course, you're going to be breathing through the mouth at that time. You won't be able to breathe through the nostril. But that cleanses the nasal passages, and you repeat the other side. That is through with water. And then you do the same thing with a thread. So you stick the thread in, and these days you don't have to. When I learned it, I went to Delhi, and at that time there was an ashram run by Dhirendra Brahmachari, who was a very famous yogi at that time. But later on he got into politics and he got into trouble. But he's no more now. But he was a great yogi. And amazing in all these demonstrations and kriyas and everything. So I went to his ashram, and how they would teach you is, it's a cotton rope. Just like you make a wick for a lamp, you rub it, and then the front edge of it, you dip it in honey wax. And then you let it dry so it becomes hard. So half of it is hard. And then you take that hard portion and you start pushing it in to your nostril. And then you keep pushing it in, open your mouth, put your 2 fingers, it'll come, and you pull it out from the inside. And then you massage the nostril back and forth. All right? These days, of course, you have rubber catheter. I know some people are shaking their head. They're like, this is weird. But see, when we talk of yoga, there is so much to discuss. These are so fascinating. These are not some outdated ways of cleansing your internal parts of the body. There was a science behind it. All the psychic nerves inside would be activated. Apart from just clearing your nostrils from sinuses and all that, it would keep your eyesight very clean. It would keep your hearing very good. So it had a lot of physical benefits, and it would help you in your meditations as well. So Neti Kriya is just one of the Kriyas. Then you had Dauti Kriya. Dauti is how do you remove the phlegm from your body all over, right from here to here. There's a lot of phlegm, right? The best way to do it is they have a muslin cloth, which is kind of a very, very thin cotton cloth. It's stitched on either side, so there's no thread hanging out. It's about 4 inches wide, 3 to 4 inches wide, and it goes to about 30 feet long. And you simply start eating it. You start swallowing it. You dip the tip with honey, and then because honey is tasty, so otherwise the tongue is going to reject it. You put it in your throat and slowly swallow the entire length. It goes in. The peristaltic action of your body takes it in, and then you pull it out. All right? This is going to ruin your appetite if I go like this. But when you pull it out, all the phlegm is contained in that cloth and you bring it out. And so this is how they would learn the Dhauti Kriya. And there is Nauli Kriya where you breathe out and then you bring the recti muscles in the center and then you churn it in and out. And so that is a powerful, I can't demonstrate that to you, but not right now at least. But maybe in some yoga class, if we are there, I can show you how that is done. It's one of the most powerful means of massaging every single internal organ. You see, when I was 29, I was declared diabetic because of some accident. And then they found that my father was diabetic, my grandfather was diabetic, and they told me, I was in Sai Baba's ashram then. The doctor said, no, you have to take this. Because there was a wound, it was not healing. And so they said, now you're diabetic, you got to do this now. You take insulin for now to cure this wound, and then after that you're going to go on to Dianal, take this medicine, the rest of your life, you're done. And I was like, yes, fantastic. Why? Because I said, now I can see if yoga really helps. I was very adventurous in these kind of things. For about 3 months, I followed the doctor's prescription because I had a wound that was not healing. I wanted to heal that wound first. Once that healed, then I went back to intense yoga practice, especially Nauli. And within 6 months, my sugar came right back to normal. And I very respectfully put those medicines aside to begin with, just in case. And then a little more disrespectfully chucked it away. And I never had to look back. It's close to 25, 27 years now. I never have to look back and go back to diabetes because of that one single exercise that I learned, the Nauli. And then there is the Uddiyana, and we'll come to that when we talk of bandhas. We are discussing bandhas here. So you actually, there are exercises in yoga which squeeze your heart. Your heart is actually physically squeezed. You see, nature has provided this rib cage. So somebody massaging you is not really squeezing your heart. They better not, right? Because the rib cage protects you. So they're not able to squeeze your heart. How can you massage your heart? How can you really squeeze it so all the blood goes out and you release it that is bathed in fresh blood? You can do with other organs because you do asanas and you're squeezing your lungs, your intestines, and so all these organs are getting squeezed and twisted, which is good. How do you squeeze your heart? There is Uddiyana Bandha, where you breathe out and you pull your stomach in, so the entire diaphragm is pushed up from below the rib cage, all the way. So it's almost like your front skin of your stomach is touching the back. You fully flatten it as much as you can with an exhalation. And that, because it's pushed up, the heart has no place to go. The heart is completely squeezed. And then when you breathe in, the heart comes back. Now think of cleansing your arteries like that every day. That would go a long, long way in preventing any kind of heart disease and heart problems. So that is how yoga has tremendous physical benefits. But all these are also very powerful when it comes to cleaning of other sheets as well. So this itself is a big world. We could spend a whole decade learning all of these and practicing all of these. Of course, like I said, yogasanas by themselves have to be learned carefully because I believe it is the third among injury-causing workouts, as the West causes it. Indoor sports or workouts is number 3. Because stretching is not as easy as you think. You can actually hurt yourself. But then especially when it comes to kriyas and bandhas, you have to be all the more careful and learn it from a very qualified or practiced or experienced instructor who will tell you how to do it. But it's great things to teach children, because I learned it when I was 17, 18, and that's a great way to really keep the children, because it's very easy for them to pick it up at that time. And if they can, it'll be a great blessing for them. So yoga asanas, kriyas, and these bandhas are all relating to the physical sheath. Why do we have to take care of the physical sheath? Because if that is broken, then everything else inside is broken as well. If the pot, you see the coffee mug that you take is perhaps important. Just take a basic cleanliness and keep it going, and you have coffee inside. You're going to drink the coffee, not the mug, right? So you don't care much about the mug, whether it has a rose on this side or it has a sticker on the other side. You don't care. You just want coffee. So you pick up a mug and have it. But what if the mug itself cracks or is cracked? You can't have your coffee. You can't have water to drink if the bottle in which the water is contained has a crack in it. It won't work. So the body is so important that you need to keep it in not only simply healthy condition, but in a far more than just simply being healthy. It has to be in a state where it can once again reawaken all the other sheets. Fine-tuning, in other words, fine-tuning. It's not enough if you just listen barely to a radio station. You have to fine tune it so there is no disturbance, no static. So you want a body which is clear of all static. And then you will be able to, when you sit down for meditation, you effortlessly slip into it. The reason why we struggle for meditation is because this cleansing is not happening here. The vessel itself is still struggling. Get the vessel in shape. So thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, there were schools that will train you right from your childhood. But unfortunately, in our education system, we have lost this part. Nobody claims responsibility for this part. Parents say, I don't know what to do. And the school says it's not our responsibility. So the child is just growing like anyone else. And so we miss that most important part of how do you keep your body healthy. Not just table manners. That's good too. Table manners, how do you eat and how do you keep your plate clean and how you don't spill on yourself. All that is good. But what about internal cleansing? How about the health of your organs? How about the health of your heart? If you don't take care of it at a younger age, then as you grow older, you're only going to work much more harder to get there. I'm not saying to discourage you all, but I'm just saying that this is a matter of fact. This is what we are facing today. And so it's all the more important that educational institutions take it up as a challenge and say, how do we teach our children these exercises and these fun ways to keep yourself in a healthy state. So it's very important. So Annamaya Kosha is the physical sheaths. That is the first among the 5 sheaths. And the way to practice Annamaya Kosha, the way to practice to cleanse this kosha, only when you cleanse it, only when you understand what it is, then can you transcend and go within. Otherwise, you're caught up in this body. We are caught up in maintaining the body. How much time do we spend just on this physical sheath? Can you believe it? Most of our waking hours, we are working to maintain this body. Everything is about the body today. Everything is about the physical sheaths today. And that is why we have forgotten what yoga is. Okay? The food that we eat is based on my taste buds, not whether it is really good for me or not. So I'm catering to my body in a very different way. What is good for me is like once in a while. But what may not be good for me becomes an everyday affair simply because it tastes good. And then the commercialization aspect, the capitalistic industries, and they capitalize on that. All right, let's make it more tasty. Now that we got them hooked onto this sugar, let us give them more colors, more sugar. Say it's healthy, raw sugar, whatever it is, it's sugar. So we are addicted, and now so we are struggling just between that. So we are caught up in just the Annamaya Kosha alone. And if you're spending so much of your time in Annamaya Kosha, what about the other koshas? We need to ask ourselves this question. That is why I said, only in satsangs like these, in gatherings like these, can we ask ourselves these questions. And start thinking. And once you start thinking, somewhere you start gravitating towards what you determine for yourself is the right path. And then comes the Pranamaya Kosha. The prana. Prana has really no English word. But in this case, I will simply use energy sheath because that is what is popularly used. But it is actually life force. There is a life force. See, prana is an energy that doesn't have a scientific equivalent to it. If I say Vayu, you might say wind is there. If I say Prithvi, you say earth is there. So there are English equivalents to it, the elements and stuff like that. If I say sound, Shabda, there is sound as an energy. Sound is an energy. Light is an energy. All right? Prana is an energy source, which science has not yet discovered. Perhaps they're not looking for it. When you look into food, what information is provided to us is the protein content, the carb content, and all that. And how many calories this food has, all that is given to you. But nobody talks about whether this food has prana in it. What is the pranic content to it? First of all, once we get to know prana, then we will find out how to measure pranic content in every plant and every food that we eat. That's a whole different thing. But the fact that we don't recognize prana is life force. So when you eat something, as an example, what you are ingesting is the life force that is existing in that food is coming into you and adding and sustaining your life force, giving energy. That's a fuel. That is what is sustaining us, right? Think of a plant, a fruit, a vegetable that is fresh off your garden. Let's say mango, this is a mango season, a Julie mango. Really, it's amazing taste. I've never tasted mangoes like that. You have a Julie mango from your garden. It's full of prana, it's full of life. It's fresh, it's juicy, ready to be eaten. And when you eat that, guess what happens? The prana in that food, which is alive, goes into you. A true vegetarian, a true yogi, eats things that are alive. Now you will be like, wait a minute, what is that? But it's true. You eat things that are alive. But what do we do with vegetables? We take it, we chop it, all right, that's fine. The life still doesn't go out of a vegetable just because you chop it. It's not like you and me. We don't get chopped and still live, but the vegetable does. But then what do you take? You take it and put it in the boiling water. Even if you meant it to keep it for a minute or so to simmer to get rid of the dirt and the bacteria, that's fine too. It's still alive. But then we don't leave it for a minute or two. We just let it be and be and be, and then we add other things to it, and we cook it and cook it and cook it. We kill the poor thing, completely destroy life out of it. Remove that bright red, let's say it's a carrot, a bright red color of the carrot, or orange. What's the color? Orange or red? Orange. So we remove that color. It's no longer that color when you take it out and you're eating it. The carrot is meant to be chewed, and the stomach juices have to struggle to digest it. Because in that struggle, you maintain the digestive fire, but now there's no struggle. So the digestive fire says, yeah, give me some of this cooked food. And you just, within half an hour, it is digested, passes through the digestive system, and now 2 hours later, you're hungry again. How many times do we actually take prana from nature and ingest it into our system? We need to ask ourselves that question. That is what the pranamaya kosha. How do you sustain pranamaya kosha? There is a yogic method. I'm coming to that. But before that, I want to make sure that you understand that prana is an energy, and it's not simply with this, that pranayama. Pranayama distributes this life force throughout your body. Pranayama helps it to cleanse what we call the nadis, and I'll come to that in a little bit. Pranayama is an exercise to do all that. But the main thing that sustains you is prana. Without prana, without the life force, you're dead. That prana slowly begins to extinguish itself from the day you're born. From the day you're born, you're on the way to the grave. I know it's a very pathetic way of looking at life, but that's true. From the day you're born, the prana begins to decrease. Now, how do you lengthen that? How do you lengthen your lifespan in a healthy way? How do you lengthen that lifespan? How can you keep that pranic force alive? What do you feed? What is the fuel? What is the energy that you're giving to your life force within your body? You need to ask that question. And the more we eat alive things like fruits and vegetables, not fruit juices, not those colored things that you get which is just loaded with sugar, not at all, but the fruits and vegetables that you can eat fresh, as raw, as organic as possible, those are the ones then you're ingesting prana into your system. That is why when they say yogis lived on fruits and vegetables, it wasn't any magic. They were actually sustaining themselves on life force. When you start eating that, you will realize you need very little food. So you don't spend all your money on food. You take that money and spend it on something else, because now you know that my food requirements have come much lesser because all I need is raw. I don't need somebody to cook. Right? So Maya is very happy. She doesn't have to cook for me. Most of the time, 5 days out of the week, we eat raw. And then weekends, because we go out and socialize or we meet somebody, and then sometimes it just feels awkward to say, I don't eat that. It's all right. Weekends, we'll relax it a little bit. But 5 days in the week, we, at least in our lifestyle, we completely stick to raw food. And it's amazing how just that one meal every evening is enough to sustain you throughout the next day, because it takes time to digest. And slowly you'll feel the energy. When you sit for meditation, when you sit and then when you practice yoga, it's a whole different energy there's an interplay of energy. It's a whole different thing that happens here. This is where when we talked in the Sankhya about the 3 gunas, you're mixing and matching all the 3 gunas in the food that you eat. And therefore all the 3 gunas slowly become into a state of balance, and so your body gets into a state of equilibrium. So that is the power of that kind of food. So you need to consider that, and we'll probably talk about it a little more tomorrow when we discuss the yogi lifestyle. What is it that we really need to do to carry on a yoga lifestyle in today's world? But pranayama now, the yogic practice of pranayama, is one of the most powerful practices that one should incorporate if he is practicing yoga as a means of self-discovery, of understanding. Why is pranayama not very popular? Because first of all, there aren't too many types. There's about 4 or 5 types. And among that, there is only one, which is the most important, most powerful, and very simple to practice. And so it's very easy to say it's boring. It's boring, just that. How long do I have to do it? Oh, 15 minutes? Oh my God. All right, okay. Can I start with 2 minutes and then see how it goes? All right, start with 2 minutes. But pranayama is so powerful. There is the Anuloma Viloma Pranayama, which is also called Nadi Shodhana Pranayama. Nadi means the astral nerves. We'll touch upon that a little bit because we need to understand what Nadi is when we come to Kundalini. So Nadi is the astral nerves. And you have to cleanse those Nadis in order to remove any kind of sludge. All these unconscious fears and all these habits and conditioned thinking all settles down and blocks all these Nadis. So we need pranayama to cure it. So that alternate nostril breathing not only brings your left hemisphere and right hemisphere of the brain in a state of equanimity, and it not only increases your talent and your creativity as well as your logical thinking, analytical thinking, but that is the physical benefits of it. But it is tremendously powerful in bringing a meditative mindset. Pranayama and pratyahara. Pratyahara is when you, because of pranayama, you start withdrawing your senses from outside. When you practice the breath, you're not looking out, you're looking within. You're listening to the sounds of your breath within, the ujjayi breath. When I listen to this breath, each of us, when we listen to our breath, this hissing sound puts our brain in an alpha wave pattern. So that's how you listen. You see within. Your eyes are in the tip of your nose. Your eyes are drishti is between the eyebrows. You take your gaze inside. You listen to inward sounds. And therefore you become what is called like the tortoise withdrawing itself into a shell. You withdraw yourself. You withdraw your senses from, which is a natural tendency to go outward. You say, all right, wait a minute, just come in a little bit. Come home. Bring your children back home. And then sustain them with the real food. And that's so important, pranayama and pratyahara. That is what sustains your pranamaya kosha, which is the second kosha. Which is how we are getting to this Kundalini, understanding the Kundalini. Without the koshas, understanding of Kundalini will be incomplete and improper and sometimes dangerous. Manomaya kosha is the third kosha, which is the mind sheath. When we say mind, where does the mind exist? Where is this mind? I'm not talking of the brain, I'm talking of the mind. And I was listening to a talk by a very well-known and I forget his name, I'm blanking right now. But he said he interviewed 2,000 psychologists and psychiatrists, and he asked them to define mind. And he said nobody was able to define what mind is. What is this mind and where does it reside in our body? In yoga, this is why I said this is where we enter into this sphere, the realm of belief, because now you could discard it as fantasy, but knowing that you all are yoga enthusiasts, I know and I believe, and I hope you don't, because this is another level, a dimension of reality waiting to be explored. This is like the treasure under you, within you. The mind sheath is understood through the chakras. Mind exists as different vortices of energy all along the spinal cord, right up to the brain, performing different functions at different levels. And we'll spend a few moments in that. That is why we are different from animals. You need the spinal cord to be straight for the vortices of energy to communicate with each other. An animal does not have that benefit. You have to be upright. You could practice it lying down, but in general, we are upright. We can stand upright. And that is so important in meditation. So, different layers of mind. There are so many sheets and so many layers of mind. And this is where, in order to understand this mind, in order to comprehend what is this energy that exists within us, what is it that is causing fear in me, what is it that is making me like something so much, what is it that makes me dislike something so much, why am I not able to control my emotions and feelings, where does creativity come from, where is this gut feeling coming from, where is all this, when do I pray, what mind am I using it when I kneel down and pray to some abstract principle which I don't even know. Somebody told me from childhood, it's gone into my system, and now I'm praying to that. Which part of the mind am I using? What is this energy that's within me? Yoga says it very clearly. The seers and the sages who went into the depths of this experience, they laid it out for you. So it's given to us in a platter. All that we need to is not necessarily believe it, but explore it with an open mind and incorporate it into your practice and see if it makes sense to you. And the beauty is it will. It will. So dharana is concentration. That means you're now focusing on each chakra. How many chakras are there? We'll come to it in the next slide. And how do you focus on each chakra? The 6 chakras. Traditionally, there are the 6 chakras. They are called the Shat chakras. Now even here in Hinduism, when you have the 6-phased son of Shiva, it's called Lord Kartikeya. In South India, we call him Muruga. He was my family deity. So he's got 6 faces. The 6 faces are the 6 chakras. So Shiva with a trishul, those are the 3 nadis he holds in his hand. But that is what symbolizes. So almost everything, if you go into depth of the Lalita Sahasranama, there's mention of all these chakras. And that is very symbolically represented in each deity. The weapon they carry, everything represents some form of the chakra or the other. All right? Let's study this chakra. The first chakra is called the Mooladhara chakra. Mooladhara. Moola means foundation, support. The very root of it all is the Mooladhara. Where does the Mooladhara chakra lie in your spine? At the very bottom. At the very bottom. And the area that's called the perineum, between the anus and the genitals, is a small gap. And that perineum is where this is called the Mooladhara. There are yogic practices. There are bandhas that you use to activate the Mooladhara, to feel the Mooladhara, to bring it into, just like you stretch your hamstrings and you say, oh, now I can feel my hamstring. Or you lift a couple of weights and you say, oh, now I can feel my biceps. But before that you didn't. It's the same way. You become aware of the Mooladhara with certain practices in yoga. And we're not going to go into that now. But the Mooladhara, what is the Mooladhara? What does it represent? Mooladhara is a state where the mind is in its dormant form. Dormant form. When do you and I experience this? In deep sleep. In deep sleep, there is awareness, there is existence, there is life, but there is no ownership. There is no I and mine in deep sleep. Think of yourself when you were in your mother's womb. What was the mind? What was the chakra? It was the Mooladhara chakra, where the life was just held. Awareness was just there. A few weeks after you were born, what happened? They said, oh, the poor baby is sleeping. You were completely in the state of deep absorption. When you were born, you were not aware of your sexuality. You were not aware of your nationality. You didn't know what language you would speak. You wouldn't know you were black or white or tall or short. You had no clue who you are. Yet you knew you were. Yet you knew you were. There was awareness. Pure awareness. Nothing else. Just pure awareness. That is what the Mooladhara is. The Mooladhara, that awareness, what is that awareness? Where does it come from? What does it hold? It holds all the experiences over lifetimes. I mentioned, yes, I don't have time thing and rebirth concept, which is discussed in Vedanta and yoga. But there is a very logical explanation. If we adopt the Sankhya philosophy and you understand the principle of the highest supreme intelligence flowing down and becoming the elements, when this body comprising of the 5 elements disappears, it doesn't mean that's the end of you. There's a part of you that continues until you go back to being the supreme. You will form the elements again and come back and take from where you left last. Every night you go to sleep, every morning you get up is a small reminder of life and death and life again. Every breath you inhale, every exhalation you do is a small reminder of the cosmic rhythms in the universe out there, the day and night cycles. So everything that happens with us is a reminder, a reflection of what is happening in the universe at large, a reflection, a pointer to a reality that is otherwise not immediately available to us. And death is one of those. So Mooladhara holds all your previous, when we talked about karma yoga yesterday, we said we have the sanchita karma that is held in the deep unconscious right there, waiting to release itself. So when you come across a circumstance and without your conscious knowledge, you either resist it or you like it, that is because deep in your subconscious there's something holding a memory of that. And we all know this, that there have been the recorded experiences of people who for no reason found that they either liked something or disliked something, they were terrified of something, even though there was no way they were exposed to that in this lifetime, only to find out that there was a previous lifetime when they experienced a similar situation. Okay? So Mooladhara is that place. So in meditation, in yogic practices, when you go down into Mooladhara, it is like facing the ghost in your closet. So yesterday we discussed karma yoga and bhakti yoga, where you can wipe out the sanchita karma and all those karmas which are deep down, you can wipe out by doing selfless work. Just go out and start doing good. Just start being selfless. And so because you're not feeding yourself, you're not thinking about what is in it for me, in every act of yours, everything that you hold inside slowly withers away because there is no fuel. Nothing is fueling it. In yoga, they say, all right, go face that ghost in the closet. Go inside, open that closet, and look at these things. And the fact that you will look at it and become aware of it, it will automatically burn itself out. That is the beauty. You know what we are afraid of? When I say ghost in the closet, it's because we don't know what is inside. We don't know what is there. And so we are afraid. We are afraid of a ghost which really probably isn't there. So how do you know it? How will you know it? That's why the word is knowing, and that's why I use the analogy of the diamond in the attic. You have to know it by going deep inside in order to go to Mooladhara. Once you go there, you understand the deepest fears, the positive things, what is guiding you, what is not guiding you. Now there is a shortcut to this, but I'm just going to just briefly mention it and not go into that. There is a whole science that goes into this and will tell you what is in your unconscious. But the problem is not with the science, before I mention what the science is, because I know you're all going to raise your eyebrows when I say this. The problem is not with the science, the problem is with the interpretation. Okay, that has become a very commercial part of it, unfortunately. And that science is called astrology, Vedic astrology, where they can actually figure out in your birth chart, when you were born, what was it that you carried into this birth. And there are calculations which say this is who you are exactly, this is your natural propensities, these are your strengths and weaknesses. So in this lifetime, if you want to work towards your weaknesses, this is where you focus. And it's amazingly accurate most of the time. But then if you're my client and you're going to pay me $5,000, I'm going to please you. I'm going to say everything is perfectly fine. We'll do a little puja and fix a little Saturn here and there and a Jupiter, and we'll fix it for you. Don't worry. We make it sound very simple, but that's a whole science, so we won't get into that. But Mooladhara has that thing. And yoga teaches you a way to go within and take complete control of the Mooladhara. And then comes the next chakra. So you are sleeping, you're just born, and you're fast asleep, purely absorbed in that state of absorption. That's Mooladhara. And then what happens? The child first begins to listen to something. The ears begin to function. That's the first sense that comes in and the last one to leave, right? That's why even in deathbed, when you see somebody in coma, doctor says, speak to them. My mother was in that state just for a few hours because she was in a position where the lungs were completely filled with water, the heart was 99.9% blocked, and they said, you have to let her go. And so there was a moment, there was a period where she had eyes closed and apparently not conscious, but the doctor himself, this was an American doctor, he said, speak to her because the hearing is the last one to go. At some point, at some level, she's listening. And so I sang her the Shivoham, and I sang her all the favorite things that she always asked me to sing, all the highest philosophies. Just making sure that she gets to listen. So listening comes first and listening goes last. The senses come alive. The eyes begin to see colors. The ears begin to listen to sounds. The smell, the nose begins to smell. The tongue begins to taste. The skin begins to feel the sense of touch. Slowly the senses come alive. Swadhisthana is in the region of the genitals, the sacral region. Sacral? I'm sorry, I just know the Sanskrit word so clear. Sacral region. The meaning is like it's one's own base, one's own home, as it were. It appears to be. The senses feel very comfortable from there because that is where the senses come alive. That is where you begin to interact and information begins to come into your system. And that information gets colored based from the Mooladhara that's feeding it. So from the unconscious mind, when information comes in here, you kind of process that information. So Swadhisthana is like that. Now, there is a whole beautiful way of analyzing this, understanding this analogy, which was taught to me by a Siddha, a guru who I believe was a Siddha yogi and who practiced Siddha yoga. He says, everything in the universe is about Kundalini awakening. And look at the morning, the dawn cycle. When the darkest part of the night is just before dawn. You know there is life going to emerge, but it is too dark, right? You can't see anything. You're not able to hear because it's so quiet. The birds are not started chirping yet. It's the darkest part of the night, just before dawn. It's very quiet. So there's stillness in the air, so you can't feel anything on your skin. It's almost like everything is suspended at that moment. That is the right time they say begin to meditate, because that is the easy time to drop down into Mooladhara because the senses are not yet awake. But that is the sign of the Mooladhara. So if there's any color attached to Mooladhara, it is pitch black. The darkest part of the night. That is the true color of the Mooladhara. Not the rainbow color that is so popular out there. That is just discovered in 1969, 70. Some Westerner came out and wrote that. Honestly, that could be his experience. I value his experience, but that is not anywhere. The original practice of yoga doesn't even talk about colors to chakras, basically. There are no colors associated. But that is why, in an analogy of the dawn, the darkest part of the night can be compared to the Mooladhara. And if there is a color, then it is the darkest color, which is black. And then you begin to see the deep blue sky as the eastern horizon slowly lights up. You begin to see the deep blue sky. And that is the Swadhisthana. If there is a color for Swadhisthana, it is the deep blue color of the sky. Because that reminds you. Why? Because my senses are beginning to see. Now I begin to feel. That is Swadhisthana. Now there are petals. As mentioned by the Upanishad, there are a number of petals, and each petal has a different sound, and bijaksharas and all. But I never really practiced it that way. It is not really necessary for you to memorize it, whether it is lam, vam, ram. You don't know those bijaksharas. You don't need to. See, this is what, how do I say this? There was a great sage called Nityananda in Bengal. And he became so intoxicated in the name of Krishna that when you would chant the name of Krishna, he would start singing and then he would dance in ecstasy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda. They would dance in ecstasy because they couldn't contain. When they started singing the name of Krishna, they would dance. They were in ecstasy. They were not aware that they were dancing. Right? Looking at them, people say, aha, this is how you get into ecstasy. So they danced hoping they'll get into ecstasy. These are two different things. You are in ecstasy and you're incidentally dancing. You may not have been dancing, but you don't know. But watching the external thing, you'll say, all right, maybe if I dance, I will get into ecstasy. And so now you start dancing. But you may or may not get into ecstasy because now you're only copying the external part of it. It's the same thing with bijaksharas. Bijaksharas are sounds that you will hear as you go more and more within. As a clarity comes, you will listen to the sounds. Let that happen naturally. And then you can come and compare and say what is written in the yogic script, Upanishads. Maybe it is the same or not. It doesn't matter if it's not. You will experience those. So leave those aside. Don't get caught up in what color it should be, what bijakshara it should be, how many petals. Oh my God, I was meditating with 4. Is 6 the right one? Oh my gosh, am I making a mistake? Don't panic. Just focus, it is just vortices of energy. And in tantric literature of India, in order to help you visualize a little more, they gave you some petals, they gave you functions of each petals, and because those days, by default, people knew the names of all the vayus and all the pranas that existed. So they said, this is this prana, this prana, this prana, these are the 4 vayus, samana vayu, apana vayu, udana vayu, and these are the chakras that operate with these vayus. And people say, aha, I got it, and they walked out. Now we can't. We'll spend half our life just memorizing these vayus and their functions. But you really don't need them. You really don't need them. All you need to know is a general area. And once you meditate on these areas, automatically you will fine-tune, 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 and you will be guided the right way. Nothing ever goes wrong in these kind of meditations. If your pranamaya kosha is cleansed by eating the prana and the good food, if the earlier kosha, the annamaya kosha, is cleansed by intense yoga practices, and I talked about nervous system, if your nervous system is strong enough, that is why yoga practices are intensely strong. When your nervous system is strong enough, when you become aware of the immense potentiality of the mind, then you are able to sustain that energy within you. Swadhisthana is about senses. This is where you form your likes and dislikes. This is where you form your habitual patterns. You want to break a habit, you go deep down and once again examine which sense was responsible for that habit and how you can change that habit. Manipuraka is a very powerful navel. It's called the navel sphincter. It's called the jewel of the city. Mani is jewel. Puraka is like Purusha, Pura, Puri, city. So it's a jewel, it is a city. This is where the city is formed. Something concrete is formed. What is that city? What is that jewel that is formed here? The I. The ahankara, from the Sankhya philosophy that we talked about, we won't get into that, it just becomes too complicated. But right now, just enough to know that in the navel center is where you form the I. Who you think you are is formed here. Why is it important to know that? Because what you believe in your inner core, just like you say, I want to do core exercises, I want to get the 6-pack abs because I have to go to the beach next week. And so you work developing your core physically. Even in a spiritual sense, this holds a very core. That's why you get butterflies in your stomach when you're nervous. You get butterflies, you feel uncomfortable, uneasy. It all begins here. This is a very crucial factor. This is a very crucial portion. This holds what is called the digestive fire. And Krishna says, I am the digestive fire in every human being, every being. Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamasritaha. Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva. I am the one, the Vaishwanara who resides here. Meaning that is the very divine principle existing in our body as a digestive fire. It's a very important, crucial part of our physiological, psychological and spiritual bodies. So Manipuraka is where the I is formed. It gets crystallized. Your ego is formed. And why is it? It's important because that belief of who you are, it's a belief, remember, it's only a belief. Who you are is what is getting projected out into the world. And all the people you draw into your life, all the circumstances that you have drawn until now into your life are mere reflections of that projection. Period. This is the truth. And this is what I believe with every fabric of my being. And once you want to fix something on the outside, go to the Manipuraka and change who you think you are. And let that belief begin to project. And watch how that belief will draw a whole different set of circumstances and people around you. So the yogis say you can control everything around you. Every reality that you so feel is not under your control. It's simply because of who you think you are. And therefore they say your highest, that's why they give you the highest belief system. And that's why I say the Vedanta is the most powerful thing, because the highest belief system is Aham Brahmasmi. I am the God I am searching. Once that becomes your belief, your inner core, I am the supreme being. I am that intelligence. I am the sun that illuminates and radiates, provides radiance to the universe. I am that. Tat Tvam Asi, that thou art. That I am. If that becomes the I am here, then it's a completely different ball game altogether. Then you create a different reality. That is why it said the sage Vishwamitra, he created a whole city, a whole world by himself because he had the powers. Why? Because he knew who he was and therefore he created a reality for him. So we can create our own world. We have complete control of everything that happens to us if we change this. Baba would tell us often, there are three people, not one. The one you think you are, the one others think you are. And most of your lives go around this itself. One I think I am, one others think I am. But then he says, the one you really are. Who is that? The one I think, the one I am, and the one I really am. That is what we need to search. And that is why meditation on the Manipuraka chakra, you're using the mind to get to these sheets and to go within. That is the jewel. And that is why it's such a powerful thing. It's called jewel, it's called a city because it is building. It's a strong city. It's actual foundations. So you're laying foundations for something permanent which is going to create your world and your life for you. That is who that I is. And that is why you need to constantly examine, who am I? And therefore, in Hindus, they say, worship this God. Worship this God with all these qualities. And they give you 108 names to say. Why? Because each one of them is a quality. You meditate on those qualities, and those qualities become you, become part of you. As you think, so you are. And those qualities become you. And then you become as empowered as the deity himself. So that is why every aspect of Vedanta is very powerful. And one is never lower than the other, provided you understand what you're doing. And then comes the anahata, the heart. This is called the home of the sun in yoga. So now, as the eastern horizon gently lit up, you saw the deep blue color of the sky, the Swadhisthana chakra is activated within you. And then the green color of the earth slowly comes up and you see separate objects from the darkness. Right now you see a plant here, you see a tree there, you see yourself as separate from the others. In other words, your I is formed as a separate entity, an identity is formed, and therefore the greenery reminds you of Manipuraka chakra. And then you begin to see the red sun slowly peeping over the horizon. Deep red in color, the color of the anahata. It's called the home of the sun, which is the home of the Jivi. This is called the home of the Jivi. This is where you reside, truly. The I is born here. The real soul behind the I, in the body, resides in yoga, resides in your anahata. It's unbroken. It will never be broken. It stays unbroken. Unstruck means unbroken, which means it survives time and space. It survives death. So anahata is that part of the heart. This is where emotions and feelings are given birth to by your mind. That is why it is called, just like the sun nourishes the earth, without the sun the earth won't exist. It's the one that nourishes. The heart chakra is what nourishes who you are. Motivation, inspiration, joy, anger, love, hatred, all of that is born here. All of that is born here. That is what is the fuel for your thought processes, which are mere neurotransmitters, which are just chemical reactions by the brain. A sense sees something, something sparks here, and a thought is processed, right? And hundreds of thoughts, thousands of thoughts pass by at any given point of time. All those thoughts don't have any energy. Which are the thoughts that get fuel? Which are the thoughts that get powerful? The moment you attach an emotion to that thought, it becomes immediately it slows down and starts to manifest itself almost instantly. You're driving past, driving fast in the road, and something attracts you. You're like, oh wow, I love that. And immediately that begins to attract itself to you. You slow down and you go stop by to go buy that thing and take it home or whatever it is. Or you go by and say, I'll come back tomorrow. But that thought will always manifest itself. Why is it important for us to understand? And in yoga, you pay attention not to your thoughts. When people come and tell me, I'm not able to meditate, these thoughts are going all over the place, I tell them, forget the thoughts. Thoughts are just natural products of the senses. Senses are constantly interacting, thoughts are generated. You don't pay attention to the thoughts, pay attention to the feeling. Pay attention to the feeling. Why is it important? Because that feeling is what is going to fuel a thought. So if you're gossiping about somebody, you might convince that it's a healthy gossip, I'm just doing it, but internally you feel I shouldn't be doing this. That feeling is what's going to register in your brain. And that is a feeling that's going to cause a different kind of chemical reactions in your brain. That is what is called negative attitude or negative thinking. Thinking and thoughts are really not of concern, but it is a feeling that these thoughts generate. So you always pay attention to the feeling. The moment a thought is giving rise to a different feeling, you'll automatically work on the feeling and say, I don't like this feeling. I'm going to ignore this feeling. The thought will die by itself because the thought is not getting energy from the feeling. Pay attention to your feeling. That is the Anahata Chakra. And in feelings, and even before they rise, you meditate on the heart chakra and you observe what the heart chakra is. So there are ways to meditate on the heart chakra as well. And then, once the sun has risen over the horizon, you saw the red color of the sun. That was the Anahata Chakra. Now right yellow in color, giving light and wisdom and warmth. Have you seen the morning sun? If those of you are getting up after the early morning rise, and some of us can't see the red sun, obviously, because we are living in cities and apartments, but we probably are lucky enough to see a few minutes after the full rise. And it's golden yellow. It's still big. And you still can see the sun. It's not so bright that it's going to blind you. You still can see the sun, though it's not advised if you're practicing sun gazing. You only have to see the red sun, not anything after that. I did that for years, and I got a growth inside my eye, and I had to get a surgery done. That's why I'm saying with practice, don't do it. Because I thought it'd be adventurous to go ahead and keep staring, but it destroys your eyes. It's not good for you. But the red sun is what you need to see. But when the sun goes beyond that, and you have this golden yellow, golden hue, the wisdom, that is where the Vishuddha chakra, the throat chakra. So you see that at different centers, the mind is performing different functions. Now comes what is from here on, you're going to call it the higher centers. Now it is said in the scriptures that out of 10 people, 7 or 8 would spend the entire life from the heart chakra and below. And all the interactions will be dealing with emotions, feelings, ego, sensuality, and fears and survival. Food, clothing, and shelter, the basic survival instincts, Mooladhara. Fear, everything motivated by fear. Oh my God, I have to do this. And many times we do pujas, we try to please gods because we are afraid they might harm us. Right? When you do something out of fear, it's not going to help you. Think about that. But that means your Mooladhara is operating there, is working, and you need to control that fear. So many of us live our lives, at many times during the day, you will know which chakra is where your mind is. You will know it. All right? So most of us live here, and then comes a time when an awakening occurs. The reason you are here is because the Vishuddha chakra is operating. That means you are here for good food. No, you'll be disappointed. Well, they're good. I mean, there's good pranic apples and bananas. Please grab one on your way out. So you are not here for any ego. You're not here for any emotions or feeling. You're here seeking something beyond all these. Seeking beyond something beyond the norm. Right? You may be going for satsang, but if you're going there for good food, then you are working on a very low chakra. You could spend 3 hours in the satsang, but have 2-3 helpings and 6-7 rotis and say, I had a great satsang today. Well, that was a very different thing from a satsang. Okay? But that's not what I'm talking about. You are here because you're seeking something more. That means your throat chakra, the wisdom begins to operate. This is where the mind begins to take a whole different energy. It's like the caterpillar that now begins to blossom into a butterfly, where the bud is now opening up into a flower. This is the center where the mind begins to reach out into a source which cannot be explained logically, which cannot be explained analytically, which cannot be seen or felt or touched by your senses. When you kneel down in prayer, this is a center that is opening up. When you close your eyes to meditate, this is a center that's opening up. When you lie down in deep relaxation, when you're into yoga and get into a state of absorption, this is a center that's opening up. When you're into music and creativity, when you're into painting, this is a center that's opening up. This is about creativity, about wisdom. When you get the gut feeling about something, something is telling you something from within. This is a center that's operating. When you have vivid dreams at night, clear-cut messages. I know some lady was telling me how she saw one light within another light. This is the center that is reaching out, because this is a center where you can reach out to other dimensions. It's called pratyaya, a chitta, kind of chitta in Yoga Sutras and practice of yoga. You learn how to take this and actually learn how to reach out to other dimensions, to know again that this is real, this is within the scope of my experience. This is the Vishuddha chakra, the throat chakra. You see, when the elements, if you talk about the 5 elements, you have the earth element that weighs you down, you have the water element, you have the fire element, you have the wind element, and now you have the akasha, which is the lightest, the sound element that can reach out. Okay, vibrations. Vishuddha chakra, which is pure in nature. The purity is not from a moral point of view. This purity is where it is devoid of all the lower chakras, all the sensual impulses, all the unconscious fears that you hold in, the influences of the ego and what you think you are, what belief your system you have. All that disappears in those moments of creativity. We all experience this. You don't have to spend years of yoga. The problem is we don't sustain those experiences. It comes and goes. The mind gets a glimpse of it. You know, there are sometimes in prayer, or sometimes you're listening to a nice kirtan, or you are closing your eyes, and it just clicks. You just feel like, oh my God, this is amazing. How did that happen? This chakra opened up. The unfortunate side of that is it goes down immediately. You can't control it. You can't sustain it. You want to sustain it, but over a period of time, it just goes away. And so Vishuddha chakra is pure because it's untainted. It starts, there's no more caterpillar left. Now it's a butterfly. It flies, it begins to fly out. And once this chakra opens up, and then you have nothing to stop you from going into the Agnya chakra. This is when, in the analogy of a morn, in the dawn, this is when the sun has now risen all the way up, shining bright white light. No room for shadow. No room for shadow, no room for doubt. You don't have to search for anything because the sunlight is now flooding every nook and cranny of your house. And you can get whatever you want. You can see everything clearly. Your perception is clear. That is why they call it the third eye. This is that center between the eyebrows, in the region of the pineal and the pituitary gland. It is not only the pituitary gland, it's not the pineal gland, it is the region of that pituitary gland and the pineal gland. Now, there has been a lot of research done on this, and they are associated with its glands and other things. But like I said, if you're a student of Kundalini Yoga, it is all about practice and discovering it within yourself. So the less you know, the less theory you know, the better it is. The less you hear about somebody else's experience, the better it is. Because what will happen is you'll be comparing yourself with some experience of somebody else's. You will compare yourself with the color somebody else wrote about it. You'll say, oh my gosh, so it's supposed to be green or pink or what is it? Why am I getting something else? All that you have to discover. So the less said about this is the better it is. The lesser you know about these chakras, the better it is. All you need to know is there are 6 centers, vortices of energy where the mind begins to fluctuate. And once it settles here, this is your true home. This is where the treasure under the tree, the beggar, would have realized, oh my gosh, I'm sitting on this treasure. This is where the supreme ahankara in the Sankhya that we talked about in the first day is extricating itself from the lower senses, extricating itself back to its own splendor. Because once you go here, then you are now settled in that connection with the infinite. You are in touch with that source within you that is unending in its capacity to give. You will know there is an interconnection with one and all. You will feel it, you will enjoy it, and you will allow that to express itself through your thought, word, and deed. That experience is the highest of its kind. You cannot get anywhere close to it with drugs or alcohol or smoking or any other thing that you think, oh, this is just one of those nice little herbs you can take and go into that level. What is the difference between that and this? Those are nice experiences, maybe. I don't know, I haven't tried it. But there is no wisdom in that experience. There is no wisdom, there is no knowing. There is no knowing. You just come back and you're exactly the same person. There is nothing has changed in your life. Your perception has not changed. You went to the attic, you came back, and you are now still crying over that BMW that broke. Because you didn't discover the diamond in the attic. And that is why, that is the difference between just a simple experience versus knowledge. And Baba would caution me, is that because once I wrote to him about an experience, and then he said, he came and said, that is hysteria. Your hysteria, he said. I felt very bad because I thought it was a great spiritual experience I had. I was waiting for him to say, good boy, keep it up. Hysteria. He got angry actually. He said, hysteria. Too. If there is experience without wisdom, no experience. Throw away that experience. Where there is wisdom, take the wisdom, forget the experience. We make a big deal about experiences. If there is wisdom, grab the wisdom, forget the experience. Let the experience go. That is why in yoga they say, don't pay attention to the siddhis, leave the siddhis alone. Because the experience by themselves mean nothing. You feel light, you feel heavy, you feel like you're floating out of your body. Oh my gosh, what does that mean? It means nothing. Forget it. Keep working. Because you will not stop without the ultimate knowing. Wisdom has to come in. Wisdom. And that is what Hatha Yoga trains you. Okay, so when you are getting experiences in Kundalini, where there is shaking of the body, there is excess sweating, or there is shivering, or there you get fearful dreams at the middle of the night because Vishuddha Chakra is suddenly opening up, or whatever it is that you get, it is all signs that you need to go back and get more intense in your Hatha Yoga practice, so your nervous system becomes stronger and stronger, and you're able to contain this energy that is rising, the sudden knowing. Imagine if I told you just won $25 million. That's you'll be like, okay, wait a minute. You'll be like all over the place. So first they calm you down, they make you sit down, they give you a glass of water, and then they slowly ease it into you because they don't want you to die of heart attack and happiness, right? So the energy is so much that you've got to prepare to receive it. Without that, you will not be able to sustain it. And that is why we get all these weird experiences of lights and sounds and everything. I say weird because that is how you got to treat them, as of no use. But then you work on the practice. Go back into Hatha Yoga. Go back into intense pranayama. All the blockages automatically get removed. That is what it is all about. So when you do the alternate nostril breathing, do it. There was a time I practiced it 64 times in the morning, 84 times in the morning, 84 times in the afternoon, 84 times in the evening, 84 times at night, midnight. You just sit and do Anuloma Viloma. You do that for 3 months and you see, only experience can teach you that. Watch what happens inside of you. It's amazing how just that awareness becomes, it's a whole different level of awareness. It's different. It's like, oh, I've been listening to this guy singing over YouTube and over the radio, and that's the difference. And from there, now you're sitting live in front of him and listening to him sing. That's a whole different energy in the presence versus you listening on YouTube, or you listening over the radio, or you listening in your friend's house. That is different, right? That is the fundamental difference between your experience versus learned experiences. So you got to explore this and understand. These are the Shat chakras, or the 6 chakras. Oh my God. All right. And the last one is Sahasrara. Sahasrara is the 7th, and it's not a chakra. Sahasrara exists. Sahasrara, the very word Sahasrara means that is the infinite. That is when that I sense completely disappears. It's not even you don't have an experience. You become the experience. You become the experience itself. That is the Niruddha state. That is the Asabpragnata Samadhi. That is Nirguna Samadhi. That is the Nirakara Samadhi, where all forms, existence, everything ceases. Once, if somebody is in this state, they say that they last only 21 days. The body just disappears because there's no coming back after that. That is the Sahasrara state. So it's not a chakra inside of your head. It is an experience above it. You transcend the complete sense of all the 5 koshas and discover the ultimate. So this path to Disneyland is within each one of us. And Hatha Yoga, yoga in general, Siddha Yoga, is a means to achieve this path. And then you have the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the ego sheath, which is the Sushumna Nadi. And then, which is where you meditate. Now, once you know the chakras, now you concentrate on the Sushumna and begin to awaken with practice. And that is the Sushumna. Sushumna Nadi is the central. Where does this energy come up? How does that energy rise? Now you have different chakras you meditate upon. But now, what is it that's going to connect this? There is it's said it is a very, very, very tiny stalk of a stem. Stalk, like a stalk of a lotus, that is right in the center, the Sushumna, which is the container for this pranic energy that is lying dormant inside. And that is what rises and goes through the Sushumna. So that is again a practice in yoga that is taught, and And that is how you encourage to awaken. You start breaking the knots. There are knots there that prevents us. There is a knot which is called the Brahma Granthi, right at the bottom, between after the Mooladhara and the Swadhisthana, after the first two chakras and before the eye, there is one big knot, a big gate that is closed, that sometimes prevents us from breaking free from sensual gravity that pulls you down, the senses. I want to taste good food, I want to see good things, I want to touch and feel soft things, whatever it is that it pulls you down because the gate is closed, that is not preventing the energy from coming up. It's getting caught into this fear cycle, survival cycle, and the second chakra. Then through practices again, there are practices in yoga which helps you break and open that gate, the Brahma Granthi, the face gate opens, and then your energy flows into the Ahankara. And then after the Ahankara, again it gets blocked. Before it comes to the Anahata, there is a block. It doesn't know what to do. It's caught now in the ego state. The gate is blocked. And so that is the Brahma Granthi, the Vishnu Granthi. And then you have the Shiva Granthi, the final. Once you rest here, this is such an intoxicating place that the Sahasrara is when you just let go. But that's the final gate, the Shiva gate. That is why Shiva is associated with death, because once that gate opens and your consciousness transcends that gate, there's no coming back. Because you are now in the ultimate arena of being one with the Supreme. That is the ultimate experience, which is what we are born for. And we will not stop till we experience that. We will come back into this lifetime again and again till we stop that. And that is the Anandamaya Kosha. The Anandamaya Kosha is when, now that you worked the Sushumna, you worked on all the chakras, now the Kundalini, the self within you, begins to rise and traverse that. Until now, you only prepared everything. So the president is going to come, so these are the places he's going to stop. So you cleared all these places and you put security in all these places. You made sure the path is clear, the traffic is stopped, the roads are clear. But that doesn't mean anything. Then the president begins his entourage. And then he begins to drive down, stopping at each spot and energizing. It's a whole different thing. Then becomes history. Oh my gosh, you know who was at this chakra? You know who was here? And so that principle is called the Devi principle. The Devi, they say the Devi, it's called the feminine principle because the ultimate Purusha is here, like I said yesterday. And all this is a dance of Prakriti. And so the Prakriti is going back from this myriad manifestations, this multifold creation, it's going back home. And that going back home is an experience of this lifetime. And that's a joyous experience. There's nothing to be afraid of that experience. It's joyous, it's amazing, and it releases you and it takes you into different dimensions. So that is why it says Prakriti is on her way back to meet Shiva. Shakti is on her way back to meet Shiva. The dormant Shakti that is otherwise caught up is now rising to meet Shiva. And that is when you take to Samadhi. And the Anandamaya Kosha, the final sheet breaks open and you begin to get the glimpse, you get a glimpse of the ultimate energy there. That is where you know that you are much more than what the eye can see. So this was just a revision of what we did. I know we started late, so I took the liberty of going a little further. But this is the fastest I've ever done in a Kundalini lecture. There is so much more, there's so much more because each one raises so many questions. I know you have a lot more questions to ask for each chakra and so many practices for each one. You spend a whole weekend, a whole week understanding each one, practicing each poses, and then knowing the plus and minuses of this, because this is a shortcut to that whole concept of evolution. Yoga is a shortcut to that. But it is a shortcut beset with troubles if you don't follow the rules of the game properly. You have to follow the rules of the game. You can't go into an American football game without the helmets and without the shoulder pads. You'll be in deep trouble. If you say, let me give it a try. Boom, 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 you're going to come back badly hurt. So that is why they say start with asanas, pranayama. There's so much insistence on how you do the asanas and so on and so forth. Do we have time for a quick round of questions, a couple of minutes? If anybody has a question, if I can.
It's really absorbed. So, Dr. I want to say thank you very much, and I want to ask you to give him another round of applause, showing our appreciation. Just a couple other announcements. Devotees, the last session of these lectures, last session of these lectures. And after that, Yoga Fest on Sunday, that is this Sunday, the 26th, from 9 p.m. Right? I can't remember, is it inside here? Inside? Right. The auditorium, right, auditorium. And many aspects of yoga, again, lectures and demonstrations, and of course, honoring ceremonies. There'll be booths and stalls, many different aspects of yoga by many of the teachers and many of the different organizations. So, devotees, I want to ask you to come out and invite others this Sunday from 9 to 5 p.m. If you cannot come for the whole day, no problem. 1 hour, 2 hours, as long as you can. And as I sit there also, I was just thinking that, how much others might be missing out in these lectures. In fact, tomorrow I cannot come. I have to do a Hardy ceremony, and I'm thinking how I can postpone it, but the wedding has to go on, so I cannot postpone it. So I was just thinking I will get the tape and look at it afterwards. So a couple other things as you leave, as Dr. Aya has said, refreshments that are filled with prana, energy. Some fruits should be outside, and water you can help yourself. And also there is a Chinmaya bookstore. Namaste, Sitaram. Have a wonderful evening. Dhanyavad.